Hello my friends, this is Brian, the speaker for the dead, trying to make this video for like a 6th time. So as you can tell, I'm on the road this week, and because I'm on the road this week, I need something to do to keep my mind busy and active while I'm driving down the road, being bored out of my mind. So I went and involved myself in something that I have wanted to do for years. Now, Brian, what are you involved in? Well, are you solving world peace? No. Are you ending human trafficking? Not exactly. Are you stopping the drug trade and the opioid crisis? Not even close. What are you doing, Brian? I mean, you make it sound like it's an important thing. I know, right? It totally is. I am reading, or listening to, rather, the audiobook of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Silmarillion. See? Way important, right? Like, I know. I'm not solving world hunger, making world peace, or doing either great. But I am doing something that I have wanted to do for years. I have put this off for years because I've just thought, I mean, I've tried it at different stages in my life, and it's hard. So I'm just like, man, that's hard. I just want to, can I just have the Cliff Notes and get the easy version? But nothing worthwhile is ever easy. Damn it. And this is no different. The Silmarillion is tough. It's a tough read, or tough listen to, but it's also fascinating. The mind of J.R.R. Tolkien to create what he did, to build this history, to basically go back and create the book of Genesis and the book of Moses. And I mean, he has basically created the Bible for the world of Middle Earth. And the world that he created. He went back and built the lore from the ground up. Now, when I look at this and I think about George R.R. Martin, who is a Tolkien wannabe with his Game of Thrones stuff, and he wanted to be the anti-Tolkien. Well, he totally is, because he sucks. I'm sorry. He can't even complete his own work. I'm not saying anything, but I mean, Tolkien finished his books. Tolkien ended his story. Now, his story was going to be carried on, but he got involved in this other thing, death. And it's a little permanent, so he didn't get to finish. He didn't get wrapped up in a TV show and fame and go into Twitter parties and stuff like that and then just be like, I don't want to complete my book. I love fame. So he actually went and created the history of his world. That's what J.R.R. Tolkien did. He created the entire history. He wrote the Bible for Middle Earth. And it reads very much, if you've ever read the Old Testament, it reads very much like the Old Testament. Iluvatar is the creator of all. He is the beginning. He is God for all intents and purposes. He creates the Ainur, and then their song, which I love the fact that he uses song to as a creative force to build the world and to foreshadow and show portents of the world. It is fantastic. It is so well done. Very similar to C.S. Lewis, which they were contemporaries of each other, critiqued each other's work. From everything I understood, they were friends. And they both decided to try and build these fantasy worlds based on Christian principles. They were both very, very Christian, which is something that Hollywood likes to leave out. The fact that it's the struggle between good and evil, the battle between those two great forces. The Ainur are created, and one of the Ainur eventually becomes Lucifer for all intents and purposes. And he is eventually named Morgoth. He has a different name. It's like Mordred or Mordred or Mordrire or something like that. but he's eventually renamed Morgoth. And if you recognize that name, you probably recognize it from Lord of the Rings, where it talks about that Gandalf says this is a demon of the ancient world, a Balrog of Morgoth. Well, Morgoth was the original bad guy. Morgoth was the guy that basically birthed Sauron. He was the forerunner of Sauron, and taught Sauron everything he knows. He's just this evil dude. And then there's the other Ainur that create the country of Valinor, and they basically build the world and create Middle Earth, and basically Morgoth is exactly as Satan is described in the Bible, as basically he can't create anything of his own. He has no intelligent mind. He's very intelligent, but he doesn't have that ability to create and stuff. He basically twists himself into a copier, a destroyer, a usurper. He's basically China. He's basically a copyright thief. He can't make anything of his own. All he can do is take America's stuff and copy it and then sell it for cheap. That's basically what Morgoth is. So he takes the races, he takes the plants, he takes the countries, and he twists them to evil, and he twists them to his version of what he thinks things ought to be. And it's just, and you're learning all of the genealogy of all of the children of Iluvatar, which are the elves and man. The dwarves come in because they're created by one of the Ainur, because he didn't want to wait for the elves and man to awaken. He was looking for someone to teach. He was excited to teach his craft. He was a great smithy, basically. He wanted to teach them how to work metals and to show them all of the things he knew, and he basically got kind of ahead of himself, and he created the race of the dwarves. And then Iluvatar found out, and it was just like, hey man, what are you doing? This is ahead of schedule. And I mean, this Ainur, and I can't remember which one he is, there's several of them, that are involved in the creation of the world. He's like, I'm sorry, I was so desperate to teach. And the humility of him before Iluvatar is just this awesome thing. It's such a lesson of how to deal with kids who've made a mistake. You don't punish them, or you have to punish them, but you do it in the right way so that you don't crush them. But it's an amazing story. It is a very tough read at times, or listen to in my case, but it is very worth it. I'm about halfway through. I wanted to make a kind of a quick review of it to give you guys incentive to go get this and learn the history. The only thing I wish I had, and I would do differently, is I wish I had a full map of Middle Earth, as described by Tolkien. Because there's areas that they're talking about in this book that are not mentioned in Lord of the Rings, like Angbar, which is basically the region that is controlled by Morgoth. And it's talking about all these different lands that were named in the Elven tongue, and I think they're the similar lands to what is talked about in Lord of the Rings and such, but like a lot of the names you're not going to recognize, and it's really tough to kind of figure out where things are going on as you're listening. Without something to reference, you're a little lost, or at least I find I am a little lost in where these stories are taking place, and they're fighting at the falls of Thintelen, and they're the kingdom of Gargoth, and then the hidden kingdom of Gondolin, and so, which is somewhere I was like, finally a name I recognized. And then about a third through, you start hearing names of elves that you're like, hey, I know that one, I know that one, I know that one, because they're finally being born into the story. But it's like I finally got to hear Galadriel and Elrond, and some of the others are coming into the story now, and have been in there for a while now that I'm about halfway through. So I would tell you, go get this. If you have not read it, go read it. It's worth it. The audiobook is a good way to do it. As I said, I would find a map of Middle Earth first, and look it over really well. And then when they're talking about places, you might have to pause and go, all right, let me find this. Right there. That's where they're at. That's what's happening. This is what's going on. Now I know where it's happening at. Because that makes it really hard for me to remember places and who was involved, because I can't visually see what's going on. I'm a very visual person. I have to see it in my head to know where I'm at. So it is a lot of fun to see and to hear these stories and the struggles and the Silmarils. You'll find out what the Silmarils are, and what a pain in the butt they became for the elves. They were this fantastic creation of 3 magnificent gems that contain the light of the trees of Valinor, and I mean, it's crazy good stuff. And it's like they're these amazingly beautiful things that end up causing so much angst and contention and frustration, that the elves' obsession with things of beauty really kind of come back to bite them in the butt. I keep going hyperexposed. I don't know why that's happening. Anyway, I'm going to end it there because I want you guys to go and get started on this. It is definitely worth it. I cannot wait to get further in, because I think I'm finally going to start hearing more of toward the age of the second age. I'm really basically in the first age right now. The second age, which precedes what happens in the Lord of the Rings, which becomes the third age of man. This is basically the time of the elves of Middle Earth, and their struggles between them and Morgoth, and the fight over the Silmarils. It is fantastic stuff. Let me know what you think. If you've read this, let me know what you thought of it. Was it difficult for you? Was it easy for you? What made it better for you? Because then we can help other people who are struggling. Like I said, I wished I'd had a map. That would have made a huge difference in how I was remembering and seeing things. But when you're driving, you can't exactly be like, oh, and then they're rated off into the garden, or as I'm plowing over a family of 7, in my truck. So I tend to keep my eyes on the road. Even when I'm doing videos, I'm not really looking at you guys. That's why I wear sunglasses, so you guys don't feel like he's not even looking at us. Well, that's rude. I can hide the fact that I'm not actually looking at the camera. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. And I will be making a second video when I finish up the Silmarillion. Yeah, it's great. Great reading, and enjoying the heck out of it. Thanks for joining me, and we'll talk to you next time.